Alvin, hey, first one indeed. How are you? Hope you've all been having a enjoyable weekend so far. Good evening, Monclord. I was kind of tossing up with the idea of cracking that tin of gold block, but I couldn't quite make up my mind. So for now, I've just rubbed out some of the vintage flake from Danish Pipe Shop. After smoking the Orlik Golden sliced on its own, I just wanted to taste this again and see if it really is the same. I actually took a picture on Friday, which I forgot to upload, but I'll show you that in a minute. It's basically a jar of gold block. Sorry, a jar of gold block. A jar of Orlik Golden sliced, and a jar of the vintage flake. To me, they look the same, pretty much. You're on the verge of opening a dozen tins. I know exactly how that feels, Monclord. So I'm going to smoke the Northern Briars Helix. Lovely pipe. This was a custom order from Ian Walker at Northern Briars after seeing a similar model at the Nottingham Pipe Show. He was a little bit skeptical as to whether he would be able to make it 9mm, but he said he's going to give it a go, and came out perfect. Couldn't have wanted it to look any different. In the mouth, it's got the feel of a Canadian or a long shanked pipe. It just really sits very nicely. It's a good reading pipe as well because the distance, it keeps it a little bit away from your face. First pipe of the day. The previous smoke I had was yesterday afternoon, and I was smoking this cigar, which is a La Gloria Cubana original edition from Spain. It's very nice. They're just about starting to come into their own. They weren't very good to start with, which you'd expect with Cuban cigars. Hi David. So I might still smoke this. I think it's still okay. It's been out all day, but I usually still enjoy cigars that have been sitting out. Have any of you guys smoked the original gold block? This is the Ogdens of Liverpool original, made in Liverpool version, which was sent to me by John Walker very generously. And be interested to know if anybody's smoked the original. I was considering opening that tin. I was looking in my cellar because I had a 25-gram pouch, like a sample pouch of the original gold block. It's available, made by McBaren nowadays. It's not the original, David. This is an original tin made by Ogdens of Liverpool. You can still buy gold block here in this country. It's an OTC, but it's not the original. Ogdens doesn't exist anymore. Hi, Suffolk. So currently it's made by McBaren, and it's a Virginia Burley. Apparently with a little bit of a sweetener added to it. A lot of people didn't like it. It was an OTC, and it was they said that it burnt really hot. And apparently quite a traditional thing to do with it here in the UK years ago was to blend it with St. Bruno. And apparently that made a lovely blend. It's a Weber, it's a Virginia Burley, and apparently there's a sweetener in there as well. Something to make it give it a light sweetness. So I don't know if you would, hey Tim, so I don't know if you'd call it an aromatic or just a Virginia Burley which is being cased rather than topped, rather than flavoured. So you might not call it an aromatic. Tree, have you had the original gold block? And how was it for you? I was looking on tobacco reviews. A lot of people saying that it's quite hot and bitey. Is it really as all it's cracked up to be, or is it just absence makes the heart grow fonder for an original version of this tobacco? Couldn't decide whether to crack it or not this evening. Yeah, in the 90s it would have been the original one, Tim. I think they stopped doing this. Somebody may left a comment on one of the videos saying that they stopped it in 2007, possibly. Which, all things considered, is not that long ago. Which is a shame. You almost like want to reach back and say, don't go, keep doing it, keep making tobacco. Yeah, it is. It lives up to its name, doesn't it? Gold block. It's a good design. Straightforward. I don't know the precise age, David, but it's going to be at least 12 years. If they went out of business in 2007, or if McBaren started doing it around then, so it's going to be a minimum of that, I guess. I'm just having a look on tobacco reviews to see if it says, sometimes they note the date. Good for you, Kanjiro. Well, Jimmings gave a 2-star review for this gold block. Although that was on the newer versions, that was in 2016. Stevie B is also quite a regular on tobacco reviews, 3-star. Yeah, David, I'm sure you're right. I'm sure the Virginias have improved. Pipe Stud gives this a 4. That's quite unusual these days, Ken, isn't it? Well, I'm just going to read you Pipe Stud's description because he gives it an interesting description. Gold Block is not receiving the best of reviews here for the most part, and that is no doubt that he's talking about tobacco reviews. And that is no doubt because so many reviewers have only smoked the newer McBaron's pouched version, which is not even a ghost of the original Ogden's produced Gold Block, which was a classic blend with deeply rich Virginia and burley leaf that was almost black in colour due to the special processing that made the palate squeal with delight. If you find an old tin of this stuff, pay the extra nickel to make it your own. The tin I smoked was quite aged, perhaps 8 to 10 years. I'm here to tell you that it aged well. The shag cut and sublime Virginia burley leaf was peppered with an unusually naturally sweet flavour that I thoroughly enjoyed. It did indeed smoke cool, burnt slow, and provided lots of smoke. If you want a tobacco-tasting tobacco with an unusual sweetness that is certainly unique, live on the wild side and try a bowl of this delightful blend. Well, he rated that in 2007, so that would have been the older version. And he says his one was old. Right, Tim, I haven't really gotten into St. Bruno. I do have an open tin of it in my cellar somewhere. St. Bruno, is that a straight Virginia, or is it a Virginia with some flavouring? Kentucky, right? I do employ gens. I do enjoy blends with some Kentucky, just to give it a little bit of spiciness. But I'm not sure that I'll enjoy heavy Kentucky blends. Okay, Pipes and Pictures. You know what the next question is, so you might as well answer it. Hey John, Condor already rubbed. I haven't really gotten into the UK OTCs very much. The only one I really got into was Special Virginia, otherwise previously known as what was it called? Mutual Virginia, was it? Oh, can't remember. John Walker, everybody. He's the generous soul who sent this tin, together with a tin of OGS, Wally Golden Sliced. generous man of Leeds. I've heard quite a bit about Red Carpet, quite a few people mentioning it as a good Virginia. Is that a straight red Virginia there, Alvin? Vapor. That's good. I'm surprised to hear that, Tim, because you priced them really well. If you like, I'll mention it in my next video. It's funny you should say that, Suffolk. The other morning when I smoked the Auric Golden Sliced on its own, it was a bit of an epiphany for me, smoking it on its own. As you know, I only usually use it for London Fog together with Virginia Woods. Smoking it on its own, I have tried it a few times before on its own. And it was okay, but it didn't really have a major impact on me. When I smoked it the other morning, it was amazing. I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'm still kind of humming and hawing in my mind as to whether it's the same as Vintage Flake. Or rather, whether Vintage Flake is just rebadged Auric Golden Sliced. And then after I smoked it in the Boswell, the freehand Dublin. I haven't got it here; it's downstairs. And that pipe I smoked mostly Rich Dark Flake or Stonehaven in that pipe. And I was just wondering whether the flavors I got were, some of it was legacy flavors from those blends. So I do need to smoke it again. Maybe I'll smoke it after this bowl. I'm smoking the Vintage Flake now, the Danish Pipe Shop's Vintage Flake. And maybe I'll smoke some Auric afterwards. Yeah, Martin, we were mentioning that earlier on. Sambuno with Gold Block is quite a traditional mixture for people, a mix that people used to do. It's interesting the language that you use when you say it gives life to the Gold Block. I'm not really a believer in trying to save a tobacco which doesn't really stand up on its own, because hi Jimmy, yeah, survived it. Enjoyed our chat that evening, Jimmy. But that's just me personally, because obviously my particular sort of non-favourite blend is going to be somebody else's favourite blend. But for instance, London Fog was, I put together two blends which I enjoyed. But if you're sort of using, if you want to use up a tobacco that you've got, you don't want it to go to waste, then fair enough. But to use a tobacco which isn't really a particularly good tobacco to add it to another tobacco, I don't know. If Sambuno is good on its own. People used to use Gold Block in their roll-ups and smoke it and inhale it. just going to show you those two jars. I set them aside yesterday. Mix them up. Okay, so here are two jars. One of them is Orlik Golden Sliced and one of them is Vintage Flake. To me, they look very, very similar. Sometimes when I look at it, I think to myself, well, maybe one of them's a bit brighter and the other one's a bit darker. But I look again. Come on, guys, let's have your votes. That one certainly looks more stringy, but it may just be the way I've put it into the bowl, into the jar. But it does look a bit looser. Hey Joe, how you doing? Right hand side, I think you're right there, John, is a touch darker. But I've got to tell you, they really do look very, very similar. So, the one on the right is Vintage Flake, and the one on the left is OGS. So Over a Pipe was correct. Over a Pipe Golden is on the left. But they are very similar. Orlik on the right, No Ken is on the left. But they do look the same. They look very similar. I would say that the Vintage is very slightly darker. So when I was reading the reviews of the Gold Block, I was kind of hesitating whether to crack the tin or not. I felt that out of respect for John for sending me the tobacco and him wanting to hear my opinion on it, that I should crack it. So I thought I had a pouch of it, and I thought maybe, I'll just try the pouch first. But I think it must have sold in one of my tobacco sales. It was an original Ogden's pouch as well. 25 grams. It's almost like a sample pack. The Orlik Golden Sliced. Oh, thanks, John. Still. Well, I think you're right there, Over a Pipe. The golden is a bit lighter. It's depending on how my camera is representing the shades of brightness, but they are very, very similar. As far as Orlik Golden Slice is concerned, I always get mixed up in terms of which one is the Perique and which one had Burley, the older or the newer. So, Tobacco Reviews is listing it as a Virginia Perique. And the notes that they say, previous edits to this blend have averred that a dispute exists whether or not Golden Sliced contains Perique. It does. Please note that the website, states on its Orlik page that certain of its blends, including Golden Sliced, contain fully ripe Virginia and a little Perique. translation mistake. Interesting. But I think if there is anything, whatever it is, it's going to be just a smidgen, literally. So this is a tin. Where did I get this one from? 2016. Did you send this to me, John? I'm trying to remember where this one came from. Because I'd said that I didn't have any more. Did somebody just send this one to me? I had it on my side next to the new tins when they come in. I have them on my little desk behind. Now, you sent me a round one, a 100-gram one, but I thought maybe you sent it to me the previous time. Maybe not. Maybe somebody else did, because I know that I've got a very old one, which I didn't want to open. And that one I think says Burley on it. I'm just going to try and find that for you. I'm going to show it to you guys. To organise my cellar. Just tins out everywhere. Okay. Well, this is the one I was talking about. And this says, this delightful blend is composed of golden and full-bodied Virginian tobaccos with a touch of burley. A fine natural sweetness in both taste and aroma characterizes what a golden sliced. Navy cut flake, pressed tobacco cut into the slices, blah blah blah. But there you can see, touch of burley, black and white, there it is. What does this one say? And this one says a touch of Perique. It's a judge. They're all a judge. So this is the original version. And who's it made by? Made in Denmark under guarantee by L. Orlik Limited, London. I don't know what the date of this one is. But I would imagine that this tin is somewhere in the region of 20 years plus. That small one. I had no, the new one's got a touch of Perique apparently. But I had two of these tins. I got these also at the Israti sale, and I used one of the tins to make my first ever mix of London Fog. That's when I discovered London Fog. And I was worried that this flavour wouldn't be the same once I used newer versions of Orlik. But I had really nothing to worry about. It tastes just the same. It would be hard for me to say whether it tastes different or better, or whether the original one tasted better. It was so long ago. Ciao Sandro. How are you? Thanks for popping by. So, what are you guys smoking this evening? What have you been up to? Today we've had my daughter and son-in-law and my grandson around with us today. We had a lovely lunch together. Vintage Syrian, nice. I saw your picture of the vintage Syrian. Spent the rest of the day. They just went home around 10:30 this evening. Yeah, it's just a lovely family day. Balkan Sicily. I do have a tin of that. I'm not sure that I've tried it. A Hamlet cigar. Love is a cigar called Hamlet. If I've ever smoked a Hamlet cigar, it would have probably been about 20-30 years ago. Are there different versions of Hamlet cigars, or is it just the Hamlet's a Hamlet? For instance, are they all short filler, or do they have some which are long filler as well? How's that penny farthing, Monclaude? It seems to be doing the rounds at the moment. That's a new release from C&D, isn't it? Short filler, okay. How does it compare to other cigars that you've had? Maybe to some long filler ones? David, I do want to open it, but I'm just not sure that I'm going to do it tonight. Aliyah Senator. I smoked cigarettes about 35 years ago. When I was in Talmudical College, I smoked cigarettes from about 16 and a half. Then I came home, went to work at about 19, 20. Smoked it, I carried on for about 2 years and then gave up. The official Frogmorton Cellar replacement. What's that over a pipe? Has anybody actually come up with official match blends like Sutliff have done with other products? Have they got one for Frogmorton Cellar? Sir Andy, good evening. Cigarette rolling tobacco, oh, okay. What do you normally smoke, Sir Andy? Well, Monclode, I guess a tobacco like that, you've got to pack it pretty tight to slow it down and just sip on it. This pipe is still breaking in. The bowl is really hot still. Not enough of a coating on there, I guess. Well, do share over a pipe. I'm sure lots of people would like to know what it is. Currently I'm smoking Danish Pipe Shop's Vintage Flake. Which is the same as that jar there. I've been very fortunate to be able to build up a little bit of a stock of this Vintage Flake because I enjoy it so much. I did a trade and got 300 gram tins, and as I mentioned, a neighbour of mine, his father and sister came over from Denmark and they bought me a couple of tins as well. And I'm not sure how airtight the Danish Pipe Shop tins are, so I decided to jar them all up. Well, fortunately, or unfortunately, depending on what you're doing with yourself, if you're working or if you're on vacation, but here in the UK it doesn't usually go to the extremes of temperature as you get in the States and in some countries in Europe. Somebody on the YTPC sent me a message today that they're planning on coming or thinking of coming to the UK in November time. What did I think the temperature would be? Well, it's difficult to know in the UK. You know, you could have 107, wow. That is hot. My car the other day when we were having some heat said 30 degrees, which is around the 90 mark, which is pretty hot. Be raining. Yes, John, you're probably right. So, Andy, you work in a cigar store? What would you say is the most popular cigar in India, Sir Andy? Do you get Cuban cigars over there, or is it just New World cigars? Hey James, Jim, how you doing? I could actually make up some more London fog while we're sitting here. See what I've got in terms of Virginia Woods sitting handy. Good evening, B. Conrad. Well, I've got some Virginia Woods there. I think I've actually got some in a bag somewhere. A decent amount. Let's have a look. Some luxury twist flake from 2003. You sell all types of pipe tobacco there, Sir Andy? I used to have a guy who contacted me, bought a couple of pipes off me, or one pipe off me, and he was saying always that in India the pickings were very poor. There wasn't much in the way of who sent me this? I can't remember. Slice of the South, McClelland replacement. I've got so many baggies here which I need to visit and see what's what. Got quite a few private blends which people have made. I've still got some bags that Tim sent me. And I've got this one here. I'm not sure if this was Tim or if it was Josh. Rapscallion. I think it's a Latakia blend. Don't think I've tried it yet. The twist flake is nice. I find that it loses something as you get halfway down the bowl, which you get with lots of tobaccos, to be honest. But for me, it kind of gets a little bit cigarette-y, a little bit ashy, but it's not bad. There's the St. Bruno. I think I'll leave that out and try that one again. This is a maple roll cake. I haven't tried this one yet. This one I picked up at the Nottingham Pipe Show, one of the samples, but I still haven't tried it. I'll try that one. What's this one? Balkan number 7 flake, also from the Nottingham Pipe Show. Haven't tried that one yet. Tim, did you try that one? I should give that one a go. Some old Penzance. I think this was from Danny Shaw, the late, great Danny Shaw. Oh, cool. Tim, you tried that flake. This is one of your pouches, Tim. Rattray's Harrow the Wind. I've smoked that a couple of times. Where'd you get those pouches from, Tim? That's the 1820 flake. Still got half a. I've bagged up half 250 grams, and there's 250 grams in here, which is at some point it's going to go stateside. McBaron, Burley, London. These are all the bags I actually bagged up when I went to Nottingham to share out with people. Virginia Woods, here it is. And I ended up, as usual, sitting on my camera all the time so that you guys could watch the video afterwards. I don't believe it. There it is. I found it. I thought I'd sold it. Gold block. Look at that. So there was a reason I went through this box after all. Okay, I think we're going to pop this one. This is Ogdens of Liverpool. And being that it's in the plastic bag as well may mean that it's reasonably smokable. And this one was made by Ogdens. You can see there it says return address, gold block, Liverpool, blah blah. So that is very cool. I'm so happy that I went through this box. Got an old tin of Owenmore. This tin I think is from the 70s, which I should really jar up. But there's something special about opening up an old tin and smoking it straight. But it's in an airtight container anyway. Early morning pipe. This is from 2016. I bought this from Boswell's. Never really got into early morning pipe, I must be honest. LJ Peretti Cuban. Didn't really get into that either. Alright, I'm going to pack some of this away. Yeah, John, that wouldn't surprise me at all. I just really wanted to do justice to this tin that you sent me. And I was just nervous of opening it and then not liking it. And maybe it's a blend that I need to kind of smoke and get used to it. I just didn't want to waste it. That's the bottom line. Mix. Yeah, I know. But still, when somebody sends you a gift, you want to try and make the best of it. It's only fair. Alright, let's make a bit of space here. Almost bought a box of 2015 Herrera Esteli Lonsdales, and why didn't you? You're absolutely right, OCD. I doubt I'll ever smoke that, to be honest with you. No disrespect to you, of course. But that's probably going to get gifted. I'm going to be straight with you. I do want to try the original. Everybody keeps going on about it, how much of a classic it is. I don't think I've smoked any Captain Black yet. I had a big tin of one of them, but I sent it on to Art a while back. It's an 8 ounce or a 7 ounce tin. I just didn't. He loves Captain Black. What flavour is in the copper, Tabby? I think most people go for the original, don't they? Yeah, I'll be honest, OCD, I probably thought the same. I'm really fairly committed to English style blends these days. And I don't mean necessarily Latakia versions, but English blends, in other words, non-flavoured. Looks like my battery's gone. Don't think I've ever changed the battery in this thing. Uh-oh, it's a square battery. Don't think I've got another one. Well, I'll just have to play it by ear. Although I think I've got another scales downstairs. Just excuse me for a minute, gents. Alright, so we're going to make some London Fog. It's 28 grams. $49 grams. Okay, so we've got 49. Originally I did half and half, but nowadays I do a little bit more Audit golden sliced, because of the scarcity of Virginia woods. But I do want to still keep some of this Audit golden sliced to smoke on its own. So that's roughly the same. That's 50, that's 60. We'll go for about 65. 64, that'll do. Now this is the current version of golden sliced. Night Suffolk. Well, the Audit golden sliced is quite readily available. Well, it's not available here in the UK, but in Europe you can certainly get it. Hi Josh, how are you doing? What have you been up to, Josh? Been missing your videos. Enjoyed your videos in particular where you're making something. Paul Noggins has it, Boswell's has it. I'm sure Copper Joe's will have it. I'm sure Tobacco Pipes will have it, I'm sure. My replacement for Virginia woods. Well, supposedly 100 degrees, wow. At the moment I'm using still Virginia woods. But this is supposedly the replacement 515 RC1 by Sutliff, which is a pound bag, which was sent to me by Art. But I haven't opened this. I do have a smaller amount in a jar, which I have tried, but it was okay. But my sort of initial assessment, I haven't smoked it enough to really give it any in-depth review, but my initial assessment was that the flavour was quite similar, quite good, but arrived at with aromatics rather than by process. And for the most part, most McClelland blends, the flavouring, the spiciness, the richness, the mouth-filling sensations were arrived at through process and through quality of leaf. And that tells, because when you smoke 515 RC, after you get some way down the bowl, then you obviously can detect the sort of the ebbing of the flavours, and that is because it's aromatic rather than the quality of the leaf itself. Hey Hector, how you doing? Howdy. Interesting handle, that painkiller. RH RF DOTF. Don't know what that stands for. It's a little bit labour intensive, rubbing out all of this amount of Orley Golden Sliced. Should really put it in a ride hard, ride free. Okay. Should really put it in a blender of some kind, but I know there's quite a few people who actually blend all their tobaccos in coffee grinders. Well, there's a video which is in the pipeline, so to speak, which I've got to do. I'm still researching it. But there were some news announcements that the UK were looking to outright ban all tobacco by 2030, something like that. And there's apparently a bill going through the houses at the moment. But it's I have to do more research on it, because the only real articles that I've managed to find are real headline grabbers, without having any real detail as to whether they're really going to outlaw it, make it against the law to smoke, or whether just to sell it. But there is certainly, it's not going to stop, you know. I mean, it's going to just escalate. I don't know how far it will go. The constant oppression on consumption of tobacco is just right. There we go. I'm just going to give it a good mix, and then we end up with roughly 100 grams of tobacco of London Fud. Well, I saw that Harriet Herford had been growing tobacco. She was, the last video she had a clip showing it growing nice, quite nice and high. Yeah, well, OCD, they definitely are looking at that as well. One of the points in that news article was about the black market and illegal sort of selling of tobacco. Well, you know, there's plenty of people who grow weed on a huge scale here in the UK. One of my kids was working for a property management company a while back, and they had somebody renting a house, and he just thought there was something fishy about it, because they were prepared to pay a very high rent. And anyway, eventually the house got busted, and the whole house, you're talking about a 2 or 3 story building, the whole house was converted into a weed growing plant. Every spare square foot was occupied by weed growing. They had plastic lined the whole of the house, and they had hydroponics basically set up to water all of the plants, and they literally had the whole house growing weed. My favourite 9mm production pipe company would be, I'd have to say, Stanwell at the moment, in terms of factory pipes. If there would be more Savinellis available, maybe Savinelli, but they're all 6mm. I mean, they do plenty of 9mm as well, but it's mostly 6mm with Savinelli. And I think it could well be that I'm spoiled because the Stanwells that I've got are all the original Danish Stanwells. I don't have any of the Italian ones, so I don't know. Maybe if I had a modern Stanwell, I wouldn't say that. But the ones that I've got, they all smoke fantastically well. I mean, they're made in a way which, to me, they're almost artisan pipes. I mean, just have a look at. I can show you some of them. And they don't look like a factory pipe. That's an acorn. Lovely shape. There's that one. This one I bought recently from the Danish pipe. Well, they're all from the Danish pipe shop actually. This one must have been a seconds or something like that because there's no Stanwell actually stamped on it, but it's pretty sure that it is. And they sold it as a Stanwell. You can see it's a Stanwell. And there's this one. It's a beautiful pipe. So overall, I would have to say in terms of factory pipes, then there probably would be the Stanwells. The Royal Danish is an offshoot of Stanwell. If it's the seconds, I don't know. So here's the mixed up London Fog. So the Orley Golden Slice gives it quite a broken flick kind of look, quite chunky, and the Virginia Woods is all the darker black bits. Well, there's far better qualified people than me, Jimmy, and people who are far better spoken than I am, who will represent, I'm sure, the tobacco consumers. I must be honest, I can't really say whether Vaughan ones are better or not, but I use them all the time, and I don't really use other ones enough to be able to say whether they're better or not. I've not really experienced any that I could say were really bad. I've used Stanwell, Peterson, and to be honest, a lot of them will all be made by Vaughan anyway. It's like a lot of things in this world, you know, there's one or two big companies that make stuff and then they just get rebranded. But there's the Stanwells. I'm smoking some of these as well, which somebody sent me. I think it was maybe John who sent these to me, Big Ben filters, which are ceramic at both ends, and they smoke well. And of course, you know, depending on the pipes that you have, some of them will fit better. You know, they have slight different dimensions. Well, Peterson Meh, as a pipe company, I would agree with most of the time. Although the one that I smoked in the competition in the Pipe Club of London smoked very, very well. Good night, Mark Lord. Thanks for joining. Yeah, Yeah, I realised you were talking about that's why I said filters better than pipes. Yeah, I agree. But as I say, I don't know if the new ownership will make a difference. I hope it will. And this one's even got the label, courtesy of Josh. The London Fog, David, can be smoked. I find can be smoked straight away. Generally, it has a good flavour from the off. Bear in mind that the constituent parts are proper blends already, and they've had some age on them, so there isn't really any need for aging. But in terms of getting the London Fog flavour, I would say 3 to 6 months, and it would be absolutely fine. I have noticed an improvement. For instance, so I've got a jar here from March this year, so that's like 4 months ago, a few days short of 4 months ago. And I've got this jar, which I put away in October 2018. And I think this is better. It's marginally better, but I must be honest, I've been going through it, so there's not much left, so I must be enjoying it. I went off, I wouldn't say it went off London Fog, but I was smoking so many fantastic blends that I didn't smoke it for quite some time. I found it to be a little bit monotonous, let's say, a little bit linear, but I've really been getting a liking for it again and appreciating it. I don't know if it's because it's the summer or anything like that, but it's really, really nice, and I'm really enjoying it again, which I'm pleased about. Well, Meeks, I think that's true with a lot of pipes, and I've been guilty of that myself. Hi, Pipe Magic. I've often dismissed some of my pipes and even sold them on, and really without giving them enough of a chance. And I've kind of been taking a bit of a telling off from some of the old codgers, like the Artful Codger, and I accepted. And a lot of the pipes I've stuck with now recently, and really just keeping on going with them, and they do reward with great smokes after some time. Oh, good, Alan Quinn. I'm really happy to hear that. The London Fog is something I put together myself. Started doing it, I don't actually remember how long ago, maybe 18 months or 2 years ago, maybe less than that, maybe a year ago, I don't remember. But it's two blends which I put together. Experimented with the proportions for a while, but the proportions don't make a huge difference. It's roughly 50-50 of Orley Golden Sliced and Virginia Woods. Obviously now Virginia Woods is no longer available, so that's a bit of an issue. So people are using the 515 RC1 from Sutliff instead, and Pipehead OR from Oregon. He has a complete match blend for London Fog. He uses 2 or 3 different blends from Sutliff to create it. He doesn't even use the Orley Golden Sliced. And I'm pleased, Algonquin. Do you notice a big difference between the older version and the newer version? Or have you not got a newer version? Alright, should we crack this pouch? Let's see what this gold block is all about. Well, Meeks, there's two things you want to check. One is the draw on the stem, but also the on the shank as well. Well, it's got to be pre-2007, given that it's made by Ogden's, so it's got to have some age on it. Oh, they call it aromatic. An aromatic blend of bright Virginia and rich burley tobaccos, finest quality leaf for its smooth, mellow smoke. Well, the seal's gone, but because it was in the plastic, it is actually pretty moist. I must be honest, I don't like this kind of presentation of tobacco because it does burn really quickly. It's dry, it's not tinder dry, but in terms of the aroma, and they do say that pouches have often more of that stuff that Quaker's just been talking about in order to keep the humescence in there. The problem with trying to get the aroma off this, trying to smell it, is that you get all the dust up your nose. But there is a burly smell to it. There's a little bit of a spice to it. There's earthiness, like a barnyard kind of earthiness to it. Okay. Antifreeze, yeah. Alright, this tends to be my tester pipe. Hey Mike, how you doing? Bonus snuff, yeah, exactly, OCD. It does look very similar to cigarette tobacco. Michael just opened a vintage pouch of Gold Block made by Ogden's of Liverpool. I'm not sure that I've quite come over to the dark side, Hector. I can tolerate it in blends, but in burly forward blends it's still a struggle for me. It is a bit broad, I would agree with you with that, Tim. What's that, Mike? I have always been on the dark side. Well, I'm friends with you, Mike, so I don't know what that says. You're probably right, David. I have a sneaking suspicion that you're going to be right. Alright. Let's give this a go. The difficulty is that I don't know what the condition is. You know, whatever aromatics was in there may have evaporated. So the initial light up, it reminds me a little bit of modern Virginia, or special Virginia. It's quite a toasty tobacco kind of flavour initially. I'm dreaming of a white interesting flavour this has got. Which commercial is that? For Gold Block or for St Bruno? Waar gaan we? Well, it's probably on YouTube somewhere, the ad. A few months ago I was going through a lot of the old ads at Benson & Hedges when I discovered the Special Virginia from Benson & Hedges. What was it called before? Was it called Mellow Virginia? This has got a really burley-ish kind of flavour, but it doesn't taste like the horrible burleys that I've tried and disliked. But it's there. There is a burley flavour there. There is a burley edge to it, but there is an interesting sweetness which I'm trying to get my head around, which I think I've tasted somewhere else. You're right, OCD. There is a bit of a barnyard flavour there. Would I call it a classic Virginia flavour? Not yet, no. Not so far. I have tasted something similar recently. Actually, I think it might be dark fragrant. I don't know if that's got burley in it, but it's got something like that. And possibly also the London burley, the old vintage McBaron London burley that I've got. Possibly. Well, it could be from the age, and it's also, there was a sweetness added to this blend. I could smoke this blend. Oh no, it's a definite, David. It's definitely got a sweetener in there. It's. They say it quite openly on the description. Well, we'll try Mike at Briar Blues. He might be able to help you out, Painkiller. Unless he sent it all over to Andrew. Very nice retro hair on this. And I can't understand why anybody would blend this with St. Bruno. I think it's got maybe the current one is nothing like it, but this one, it's got a very distinct flavour, and it's quite full. Oh, I might, David, I might. But I'm certainly not intimidated by the tin anymore. There's a certain, which possibly does come from the age, there's a certain twinge that you get at the end of the, as you draw in your mouth. It's got a nice sort of bite to the flavour, like a richness, a tanginess. McBaron does make it now, yeah. And apparently it's not the same at all. And apparently it burns hot, and a lot of people don't like it on tobacco reviews, but that doesn't mean anything. I am getting a little bit of tongue bite. Not yet bite, but I can feel the tinkle starting. Perhaps it's blended with St. Bruno to just temper that heat. I was just going to say, Tim, yeah. Yeah, so I did hear about that, about Amphora, Kentucky. I think it was on your video that I heard it, actually. Well, it's all market driven, Ralph, isn't it? And if a blend goes out of business, then obviously the new people that take it over obviously would do it their way. And that's what's happened with Goldblock, with Ogden's no longer trading. And the same has happened with Dunhill. And that's why you get lots of different versions and people looking back to old times gone by, and saying, ooh, if only I could get the original again. Well, John, that sounds like a type of tobacco that I would like. So, yeah, I think I would, at some point, open this tin. I guess I would get through that first. It's surprising how much tobacco gets into one of these pouches. Don't want to manipulate it too much because it will go to dust. Hang on, is this 25 grams or 50? 25 grams, that is. Yeah, Tim, you should be right there. That's what I thought, Tim. As I was opening it, I thought that's a lot for 50 grams, and then it's 25. Well, I don't know how much this thing weighs, but it says 52. Now let's do it with a tear. $23 grams. Wow. That is a lot of tobacco. Right, I should have a jar somewhere. Yeah, I'm sure you're right, David. That's very true, OCD. The Semois is very, very dry when you get it. Didn't particularly like the Semois, to be honest. I don't know, Ralph, if it's just a visual thing, but I also prefer a flake. In any blend, I prefer the flake. I don't know if it's just, as I say, a visual thing, or just so that you can really go through the ritual of rubbing it out to how you like it. Which one's that, OCD? The Semois? Scottish Gaucho, it's not bad. I'm actually quite enjoying it. It's got a really distinct richness to it. It does. I didn't enjoy the Semois. For me, it was like a tobacco, a bit like Dark Kendall. It's a tobacco which I would use in a rabbit hutch, to be honest. Do you still smoke some Bruno, Tim? You're up to your elbows in Naples. What's that, Mike? That tanginess, that richness in this Gold Block is definitely less than it was before. Yes, Meeks. Some tobaccos which I abhor, they get assigned to rabbit hutch duty. Mexican cactus. Cooking. You're always cooking, Mike. There's a channel called Cooking with the Blues. Check it out. I don't blame you, Ralph. How long ago was that? I've really, although I've smoked it a lot in London fog, but smoking on its own I just came to really now, and it's good. Three days ago, wow. Well, I thoroughly enjoy it at the moment. The sweetness in this Gold Block is still there in the retrohale, but not so much in the mouth. Smoking it in this Northern Briars Quebec, which I generally use for testing blends, it seems to give me a very neutral smoke. Ian Walker, Northern Briars. I did have almost a 7-day set of these type of pipes with the smooth rim, the smooth bowl, but none of them were 9mm. This was the only one that had a thick enough shank to convert, so I sold the rest of them. One in particular was a panelled, beautiful piece of briar, and I really didn't want to sell that, but there just wasn't. It was before I was doing it myself as well, so perhaps I would have taken the risk and tried it myself, but in the end I sold it. Yeah, Tim, I have no idea why they've stopped. It's a shame. Well, the tin I opened was the Long Belt, the one that I just opened now, which John sent me, and that was, I think he dated it as 2019, but obviously it could have been an old stock, I don't know. The 100-gram tins I thought were still the belts. I mean, they're great to look at, but they are a bit unwieldy, aren't they? I don't know what I've done with the tin. I must have chucked it on the floor somewhere. Can't see it right now. Yeah, Tim, I'm the same. I've yeah, the smaller tins are flakes. Yeah. So this will be a flake, and the larger tins, or the tubs, the large tubs, will also be the large belts. Tim, I'm the same. I've looked at some of the German sites many times, and I just haven't pulled the trigger yet. I'm tempted to get one of those 200-gram tins, but they're made of cardboard. I just worry about how they will age. Oh, that's interesting, Josh. I didn't know that. I've not seen belts in the small tins. Well, I can open this tin. Well, is this 2016? No, see this one, it says what it is inside. See, it says this one, this cut, the cut is a traditional navy cut flake, pressed tobacco and cut into thin slices, so this one will be flakes. It says it quite clearly. This one is also navy cut, so those ones will be sort of oblong shaped flakes. Is this what you call an 8-ounce? So that's the regular size one. I actually like this size very much. It's a very handy size. It's got a good wide mouth. It's a very handy size, this one. These are made by Kilner. And these ones are Ball. This is 1820, which I just jarred last week. I think this will be about 250 grams. So you'd be looking at how many ounces? Yeah, it's about 8 ounces. Just over 8 ounces this. So yeah, that's right. Yeah, Tabby, I pretty much do the same. But these are the ones that I've been trying to find. OCD, that's what I was talking about. These ones, they're even better for the car because it has a much wider mouth. You can get a pipe in there to load your pipe. When I'm loading a pipe in the car, there's always flakes getting everywhere, little bits of tobacco. But I can't get these here in the UK. I can buy them on Amazon. I don't know if it'd be an issue, but the cardboard box on the Orbit Golden Sliced, I'm sure it's silver lined. I imagine it's silver lined, and I'm sure it's airtight. But I just don't know how good they are for long term. But I can't get these in the UK, and to get them shipped over from America is an absolute fortune. It's just not worth it. But these are pretty good. This is the Bourbon Flake Garth Hogarth that we got at the pipe show. This is the most delicious tobacco. The aroma is unbelievable. It's great to look at. It's already got some crystallization on it, but the aroma is, if I could give you guys smell-o-vision, you would love this. This is a mixture of a smell like Play-Doh, fresh cookies which haven't yet been baked, with a strong sort of sugary molasses kind of aroma. It smells divine. I could just smell this all day. It smells amazing. Doesn't quite translate in the taste when you smoke it, but the aroma is awesome. And the only thing about that is that I wonder whether the aromatics in there will wear out after a while. I don't know about that. Some of the other guys, maybe Tim will know, Pipehead, whether the flake is better than the ready rubbed. To answer your question, Hector, about all the different tobaccos that I put in this pipe, it's a good point, but it just seems to always give me a good impression of new tobaccos. I'd imagine that the ready rubbed would be more available because people prefer to buy the flake, and I guess that goes out of stock quicker. Pipehead was talking about whether St. Bruno is better ready rubbed or flake. Yeah, Hector, I am, for the most part, I'm not OCD about it, but that's why I have a pipe for testing tobaccos. I have a few pipes for testing tobaccos, because I don't want to try it in a pipe which is dedicated to something in particular. So if I wanted to be purist about it, I suppose you could use a cob or a meerschaum for testing out tobaccos. But I don't know. It's just one of those things, you build a relationship with a pipe, which I never really understood fully before. But I suppose if there is any truth in that, it's certainly what I feel about this pipe, is that it just seems to be the one that I lean to when it comes to trying out a new tobacco. Well, that smoked down pretty well, almost to the heel, the gold block, and it was quite nice. I think the beginning of it was nicer, but it was pretty okay all the way through. Yeah, he's busy cooking, so he sometimes has it on in the background. So he may respond, may not. We'll see how it goes. All right, what's next, folks? I think I'll just finish my cigar from yesterday. Well, Meeks, those are all Lakelands. If you like Lakelands, then yeah. Keep them away from me, though. This reminds me of my teacher back when I was a 7 or 8-year-old, who I've talked about before. He used to pull out an old cigar, which I don't know how old it was. He used to relight it in the class. Those were the days when teachers could smoke in class. I don't like Lakelands at all. I can tolerate the odd one or two, but I don't like Lakelands, generally speaking. I've yet to try quite a few of the American OTCs. I was listening to, who was it? Was it Cane Rod Piper? Who says he uses Carter Hall to break in his pipes. Woodbridge is actually a nice blend from Esoterica. That's nice. Hey Mel, sweet chicken. Maybe it was Sergeant Savinelli then that I heard talking about it. In fact, it was, because he broke in a couple of new pipes that he bought. He broke in one of them, which he bought in a flea market. It was him. It was Sergeant Savinelli. It's K. Woody, yeah. This is La Gloria Cubana. This is a Spanish regional edition from 2017. Started smoking it on Friday. Smoking perfectly well now. People get a little bit too, uptight about how you must smoke something this way or that way, and never go back to a dead cigar, that kind of thing, which is, I've not found that to be true at all. I've always had good experience with going back to cigars, generally. If the cigar was good in the first place, it's going to be pretty good. As long as you're not in tinder dry conditions, it should be fine for a day or two. This was out on my desk for over 24 hours, and it's smoking perfectly well. Yeah, he was relighting, filling his K. Woody the first time. A couple of pipes which he got at the flea market. The important thing, Mel, is if you're relighting a cigar, is to get rid of as much ash as you can. Light it and purge it. You've got to purge it to get rid of some of the old flavour, but other than that, absolutely fine. You could also get a cigar saver, which I showed in one of my videos. I think I did a review on it when I first bought it. It must be a couple of years ago, maybe a year ago. But I think I showed it the other day in one of my videos. Essentially a tube with a lid, and it just keeps the humidity in the... and it works very well. Well, if you'd be in the UK, I'd say, sure, send it my way, Ralph, but I imagine you're in the States. Yeah. He's alright, he's a cool guy. What's his name? Philip? Is it? Shervington. He used to have his own shop. I think in... where did he have his shop? I think he had his shop in Jermyn Street, possibly. Or one of those. Duke Street, maybe. He used to have a shop for a good while, and then he joined JJ Fox's. I think he's done the rounds, but he's obviously got a huge amount of knowledge. But I think he's more a cigar man. I'm not sure. If you have a look at on YouTube, there's a series of videos done by what's his name, Nick. He passed away a couple of years ago. He did a series on the London cigar scene, I think it's called, or UK cigar scene, and he interviews the main players in the UK cigar scene, and he interviews Edward Sahakian, his son Eddie Sahakian. He interviews Peter Chase, who used to run, who's passed away recently, sadly, but he used to run Hunters and Frankow, which is currently run by, I can't remember her name, somebody will correct me, I'm sure, but he interviewed her as well. He interviewed quite a few people. Definitely a series worth watching. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, so the channel is called UK Cigar Scene, and you can see so the top one is Eddie Sahakian, second one is Philip Shervington, Ronald McDonald, Gemma Freeman, she's the lady that now runs Hunters and Francois, and they're showing this amazing humidor, Ramon Ayones humidor. And then you got the Masters of Habanos at JJ Fox's, which is, this guy's name is I think it's Hilal. Nice guy. This guy I think has left, he's gone somewhere else. And this is the guy, he's got his own video, a Cuban Cigar Walk of London, Nick Wing, his name is. A great channel. Here you got Simon Chase, not Peter Chase, Simon Chase. Oh look, my videos come up. Shop Talk, Cuban Cigar Club, Newcastle. And there's good old Lawrence Davis, Salter Cigars. Actually, I was at Salter Cigars recently. My first time that I've actually sat there and had a cigar. I was invited there by one of the guys that works there, Dan, and I've actually got a cigar of theirs which I need to smoke. It's a house blend. It's a Cuban cigar, but it's a house blend. How that works, I'm not quite sure, but they're blended on their behalf, I assume. So I want to do a video on that one. Let me just go into the channel. So I don't think there's that many videos. So you've got, he talks about various aspects of cigar smoking. So you've got humidors and humidification. So there's that Philip Shervington, Alan Greenspan interviewed, lighting and enjoying your cigar, Masters of Habanos, cutting your cigar, James Suckling. He's got some great videos, James Suckling. There was a time, if you go to his channel, where he was doing a lot of cigar videos. He now is really only doing wine videos. But James Suckling, his videos were on cigars were really quite short. He didn't really go into any depth, but he'd give them a mark out of 100. You know, the classic cigar, you know, in the 90s, that kind of thing. The same as the Cigar Aficionado ratings. Mark Sinden interview, James Suckling again, Ray Gelato, Darren Cioffi, Eddie Sahakian, Derek Harris. That looks like, oh, that's Zeno Davidoff there. I don't think I've seen all of these videos. Richard Patterson, the interviews I've seen, Ronald McDonald, Simon Chase, and I think that was taken in Cuba, that one. And that's the channel. If you like cigars, I highly recommend you check out that channel. Hey, Monk Lord. My cigar's gone out. Talking too much as usual. Hi Daniel. Anyway, so how did we get to that? Because Philip Shervington, when he did the interview for Nick Wing on the London UK cigar scene, he did the same thing. He lit his pipe with a torch. So it's obviously something he does. In this weather, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised, Meeks. I'm not smoking cigars as much as I used to, but definitely a little bit more of late. Yeah. Yeah, most people wouldn't use a torch. I remember the one time I did use a torch, I wrecked my Boswell, and it's still got, I mean, I did recondition it, but it's still got the markings of it. This Boswell, I've got a temporary stem on there, but you can see there's still black charring over here, but I've got rid of most of it. But I completely destroyed the top rim at the time when I used the jet on that one, but I don't think I have ever since. I guess it would be good when you're outdoors in a windy situation. But yeah, you'd have to have a really like a single jet with a very thin flame if you want to not destroy the rim of your pipe. And I think there's also the issue of overheating your tobacco. I don't know how many pipes he's got. I doubt he's got a huge amount of pipes. I would imagine he smokes more cigars than pipes, but I don't know. I'll have to ask him next time. Yeah, Zippo is my go-to pipe lighter these days. For outdoors, nothing beats it really. The top sort of cap on here has come off on mine, but it doesn't seem to make any issues. It works and it's reliable. Been very happy with it. Man's got to do what a man's got to do, Daniel. Put a roof over your head. Working construction is heavy going. I do find that soft flame lighters, they can take a while, especially when you're relighting a pipe. When you're lighting the char light, you know, any lighter will do really. But when a big lighter is actually very good. I have one sitting here as well. But I do find some of the soft flame, like the Petersons and these kind of things, when it comes to relighting a pipe, I find that sometimes it takes quite a while till the heat gets in there and it really lights up the cherry. Well, gentlemen, I think we shall call it a night. Hi, Dan. Yeah, the Petersons, I've been through a few of those Peterson lighters. I've got one still in my drawer which I haven't used yet. It's brand new. It was a replacement because a couple of them broke. ST Dupont, you know, if it depends on your financial situation. I've got a Chinese one, which actually, you know, it's works very well. I do need to refill it, but it does work very well. It's very weighty. It wouldn't surprise me if it's made to the exact specification because it's very well made. Got the ping and lights very well. Very, very well constructed. Got no complaints. and for less than $20, absolute steal. Can't go wrong. Last 12 months, the Peterson, yeah. Well, that has certainly been my experience. As I say, I'm on my third Peterson, but I almost used it the other day and then I put it away again. It's a lovely looking pipe. It works, it's great. There's a bit of gas in there, it looks like. But the problem that I had with each of them was that the top plate, there's one screw there, a little screw, and eventually that just sheared off and the whole top plate became loose. And it was just more hassle than it was worth, and I just haven't used this one. Yeah, I can't actually find my adapter at the moment. It's in my drawer somewhere, so I haven't had a chance to fit it. You can buy them. GQ Tobaccos has them. You can buy them on eBay. I think GQ has them for about £3 or £4. So, thanks everybody for joining. John, thanks again for your beautiful gift. Much appreciated. Dan, Ralph, OCD, Ken, Meeks, Daniel, Monclaude, Mel, Josh, Hector, and everybody else. Thanks for joining once again. Been an enjoyable chat, and I hope to see you, hopefully. Maui, was that you? Good evening, Maui. How are you? I have to at least say hello to you. I'm not wearing it, but I'm just put it over me. That's the t-shirt that Maui sent me. Yeah, I can stay on a bit longer if you like, Daniel. Just for you and for Maui. I haven't tried the tobacco yet. No, not as yet. The one of the small batch one I think I have tried before, but the red. Hang on. Right, because there's lots of different small batches. I'm not really that familiar with them. Right, so this is California Red Flake. The other one I've got is the San Sepulcro. I think that's the one I've tried. I'm not sure if I've got any of this. I have to check. Carolina Red Flake. I haven't tried this one, I don't think. And then you've got the Red Virginia Ribbon, which presumably is not a small batch, is it? Also from 18. So no, I haven't tried them as yet, but I will do in due course. This old port that OCD sent me, it's sitting here on my desk still. I'll be honest with you, it's not something that I would usually smoke, a grape flavoured tobacco, so I'm not sure that I will smoke it. No offence to OCD, but I may well gift that to somebody. No point it sitting on my desk and not getting smoked. Apparently it's quite, you can only get it in Canada. The San Sepolcro is quite strong, quite peppery, I think, if I remember correctly. I think I have one open somewhere. Yeah, so here I've got one, I have tried it. So I've got the San Sepolcro there. Don't know who sent me that, I think that might have been Mike Blocker. So probably I haven't tried the Red Virginia. Italian dark fired, so I'm imagining this is quite spicy. Have you tried it, Moe? Yeah, I'm sure they do. I think all the small batches sell out pretty quickly. The YTPC goes into overdrive, I think, when the small batches are released. I seem to remember last time they said they sold out 8,000 tins in a day or something. I've been enjoying the Audit Golden Slice very, very much, Daniel. Well, being that it's small batch, you know, I'm sure you'll be able to pass it on, Meeks. Get your money back at least. Yeah, you have mentioned the 780 140, and I did see some videos on that 780 140. I haven't tried it, but or maybe I did try it. Hang on, did you send me some of that? I can't remember stuff, you know. I may have tried it. I think I've tried the 780 140. Somebody might have sent me a sample, not sure. Yes, Daniel, I think my video was the first on the YTPC to announce that, actually. Although somebody did say that Metalhead Cigar Guy did mention it, or talked about it about a year ago. But yeah, I did see that release on a Facebook group, and talked about it as soon as I heard it. As I said earlier on, there's also a video that I want to do on an announcement that I saw that in the UK they want to do an outright ban of tobacco by 2030 or something like that. Complete ban. No idea when they're releasing. People have been in touch with them, emailed them, but no idea as yet. Yeah, Daniel, I think you must have listened to my video. Yeah, that was a question which I asked in my video about Shoughton, that I felt bad for them because they had done a lot of work to sort of revitalise and bring back some of the Dunhill blends, although they've done it in their own way, and their blends don't necessarily replace the Dunhill blends. They're not like for like, but it's their version, you know. So maybe there'll be a place for both. I mean, the rolls from Shoughton's was really quite nice, considering it was really fresh. It was literally a few months off the production line. It was pretty good. So presumably, with some age, it'll be a lot better. And when Sheraton's brought their range for us to try at the Pipe Club of London, I tried 2 or 3 of them, and they were all really nice. Yeah, you could send Trump over, Jimmy. There's the headline. Smoking must be abolished in the UK within 11 years, say ministers in ambitious new plan. All UK smokers must quit the habit by 2030 or switch to e-cigarettes, according to an ambitious government plan set to be unveiled by the Health Secretary next week, which is this week. That was issued on July the 9th. Well, so it would have been the week before that, but we haven't heard anything. I don't know if it's fake news or not, but it was certainly announced by several websites, several news websites, UK news websites. A leaked government report suggests tobacco firms would be forced to pay the cost of helping people stop smoking instead of overstretched local health services. The blueprint document states, the gains in tobacco control have been hard won, but there's still much to do. For the 15% of adults who are not yet smoke-free, smoking is the leading cause of ill health and early death, and a major cause of inequalities. That's why the government wants to finish the job. The document was leaked to the Daily Mail. The document that was leaked to the Daily Mail spoke of the government's ambition to go smoke-free by 2030. The document also pointed out that smoking was more predominant in areas of deprivation. It said tackling these inequalities is the core challenge in the year ahead. And I read similar, I searched during the course of last week all the websites that announced it, and they were all very vague like that one. It's really headline grabbing, and there wasn't enough detail, which is why I haven't done the video yet. And I didn't want to just do a clickbait and not have any real content other than that headline. But it doesn't really state whether they're going to make it illegal to smoke tobacco, whether it just relates to cigarette tobacco. It's kind of very vague and ambiguous, and I just didn't feel informed enough to really make a video on it as yet. So I've kind of been waiting on any further announcement, because all of the sites have the same vague announcement on it, and it's really just a headline grabber. To make it illegal, I think it would be very tough. To make all tobacco illegal, I can't see how they would do that. Anything's possible, but the civil rights of people to do whatever they want, as long as they're not harming anybody else, would seem to, especially in light of the fact that they're making soft drugs more and more accessible, So it does seem to be, as I say, a headline-grabbing announcement, but whether or not it will actually come to fruition in any kind of significant way, I don't know. Yeah. Jimmy, I don't know. The fact that papers like the Daily Mail, the Express, and various other papers who are nationals here in the UK, the fact that they announced it, whether they represent any particular arm of politics, the fact that they're putting it on a headline, it has, there's no smoke without fire, excuse the pun, but perhaps it's a very sort of far-fetched ambition, but will allow them to at least make some inroads into tobacco, and maybe they set their goal really high so that they'll at least get something, possibly. Well, good night, Maui. Thanks for joining. I think we'll call it a day. Daniel, I gave you a little bit of extra time, so I'm going to wish you all a very good night. Thank you very much for joining. And if I do hear any more about this particular announcement, I'll obviously keep you guys informed. Look, being realistic, Daniel, I'm not the type of person that wants to encourage other people to smoke. I like to celebrate it with people who already smoke and to enjoy the hobby and to enjoy all the aspects of it. And in my case, obviously that's progressed into making pipes. But I'm not a believer in being evangelical about it and encouraging people to join and to start smoking a pipe. If they're smoking cigarettes and want to get away from them and move to a pipe, absolutely. But I'm not evangelical about it. So when people talk about the harm that tobacco does, I'm not against it. I'm realistic. People do lots of things in life which are dangerous. People drink alcohol, people smoke, people take drugs, people do dangerous sports, do lots of things which are dangerous. Hi, Spiro. And smoking a pipe, by all accounts, seems to be the least of all of those harms. But we've got to be realistic about it. So I'm not out there to convert people to smoking a pipe. Certainly, if they're not smoking any tobacco at all, I would definitely not encourage it. I would discourage them. But if you are smoking a pipe, then as I do, certainly happy to celebrate it, talk about it, get involved. Promote is a strong word. I don't like that word when it comes to talking about promoting pipe smoking, but certainly I want to celebrate it for those that do. But we have to be realistic. And if a government wants to make a country healthier overall, then I'm for that. But there has to be a limit. There has to be a point whereby they're not increasing. So certainly, the measures that they've taken to stop people taking up cigarette smoking, like plain packaging and huge warnings and all of that. Some people might say it's a step too far, some of it, but I can understand where that comes from. But to make it illegal is a step quite far. And again, you've got the same struggle in America with the FDA, where it seems to have kind of stalled the whole process over there in the US because of all the backlash that they've had against clubbing cigarette smoke together with pipes and cigars. And it seems that over there it was really a rushed kind of process, and they didn't really take into consideration the huge amount of data that's out there, statistics which show that pipe smoking is not anywhere near as harmful as cigarette smoking. I guess cigars are somewhere in between, just due to the pure concentration of nicotine in a cigar. But it's a tough one, because when government look at that kind of question, it's very hard to split out different aspects. Like, for instance, if somebody was to say alcohol is bad for you and they want to outlaw it, and then somebody comes and says, well, if you take out the best quality wines, for instance, which are designed for table consumption and not for addict consumption, it would be a very hard thing to split out. How do you separate that out? The average say alcoholic who sadly has gone to the stage where he's addicted to it and is not really enjoying the refined aspects of drinking good quality wine. So you might say, well, okay, just ban anything below £5 a bottle, for argument's sake, and you'll automatically cut out most of that kind of consumption. But it's not realistic. Number one, a real addict will just spend more to get his alcohol. And the same, I guess, could apply to smoking. If you ban cigarette smoking, you'll end up having people who are addicted to cigarette smoking pipe tobacco, inhaling that and getting in far more concentrated levels of nicotine, okay, without all of those harmful chemicals and carcinogens which are in cigarettes. But I don't know that it's so straightforward to split different genres within tobacco or within alcohol. and therefore a government, they're just going to club it all together. Yes, Chad, as always, a nice, straight to the point, cutting remark. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They'll always find ways around it. So when a government tries to do something along those lines, I can understand where they're coming from. I may not be happy about it, but I can understand where they're coming from. If they, if a government, hi Illinois, if a government is spending God knows how much on health care to yeah, art, absolutely, very good example. Sugar is a great example. There are sugar taxes. There are sugar taxes which have been introduced here as well. That's the only reason, probably, Daniel, why they haven't been banned so far, is because of the taxes, the huge amount of revenue that they get from cigarette smoking. The tax here in this country is mind-boggling. I don't know what a price of a packet of 20 costs nowadays. It's probably around £10, I'd imagine, by now. When I smoked, it was around £1 a packet. And now, it's, as I say, it's around £10 a packet of 20. That's a fortune. And probably of that £10, £9.50 or maybe £8 or £9 is tax. And the same applies to pipe tobacco and cigars. The percentage of tax on them is just crazy. But that's the expense you have in order to have a health service that has to deal with the repercussions of those vices. I suppose arguably you could say that sugar actually is more harmful in terms of how much the healthcare has to deal with than cigarette smoking. The amount of illnesses that come out of being overweight, of which I am one of those people, but heart disease, diabetes, just wear and tear on joints, everything is affected by being overweight. So you'd think that tax on food would make more sense, but as Art says, where do you draw the line? That is wildly expensive, Spiro. I mean, I thought we had it bad here in the UK and in Canada, but a 50-gram tin of tobacco, $100. Wow. Well, $80 of that won't be taxed. It'll be probably $90 or $95 will be taxed. I mean, when I first started getting tobacco in from the US, the average tin of tobacco was around $10. It's gone up now to around $13 to $15. But when I was buying from Boswell's on a regular basis, the average tin was dirt cheap compared to what I was paying here. I was buying Dunhill Navy rolls. It was a little bit more expensive because it was Navy rolls, but and because it was in English, although made in Denmark, but an English blend, an English company, so you paid a little bit more. But if I was buying, say, Orlik Golden Slice, it was about $8-9 for a tin. It's still quite cheap, actually. I think you can still get it in America for about $10 Orlik. But for me to buy from America, even with paying the shipping, is so much cheaper. A tin of tobacco, I mean, I can buy from Four Noggins a pouch of Orlik Amphora for $6, $6.50, something like that. It's like £4. It's nothing. It's literally nothing compared to here. If I was buying a pouch of Amphora here, it would be somewhere between £13 and £15. So it's a fraction of the price. So as long as you don't get stung by customs, you're okay. It still makes a lot of sense to. And I haven't done that for a while. I don't really buy from the States anymore. I'm doing my best to support local B&Ms here. Not necessarily B&Ms, but certainly tobacconists, online tobacconists like GQ Tobaccos and My Smoking Shop, and various others. And also because I've got a decent stock of tobacco, I don't have a need really to buy from the US very much. Okay, every so often I'll do an order. Really, what I do want to do is do an order from Cuppa Joe's to get some of those old magazines, which I still want to try and get, the Pipes and Tobacco magazines. They've still got in stock quite a few of the older issues. I think they charge about $2-3 per magazine, but the shipping was crippling. Last time I bought about 8 magazines, and I think the shipping cost me about $70. So I've mentioned this before many times. If any of you guys fancy buying in a bunch of old issues of Pipe and Tobacco, I'd be more than happy to pay for them. No problem, Daniel. The only one that I know of that will consider is JJ Fox's, that they will send some stuff around. I don't know if they send to the States or not. You could try, but generally speaking they won't send to the States. I mean, we're lucky here in that some of the US ones are prepared to, and for the most part they do get through. I've just finished a cigar which I started yesterday, and earlier on I opened a vintage pouch of Gold Block, and before that I had some vintage Flake from Danish Pipe Shop. But we're going to call it a day now. It's now 2:10 here. I started earlier this evening in the hope that I would finish earlier, but that hasn't happened. Where are we now? We're almost on 2.5 hours, I think. So I think that's long enough. Thanks everybody. Thanks Illinois. And thanks everybody else. I mentioned you all before. Spiro, thanks for joining. And I will wish you all a wonderful week. And I will catch you on the next one. Cheers, Chad. Nighty night. Cheers, Tree. Are you going live, Chad? Probably not. Okay. So I will bid you all adieu and catch you anon. Night, Mr. Ximba.